Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. As you know, my name is Mary Baker, and I'm here to give you the education, the tools, and the motivation to identify exactly what's in your way today and what you can do about it. So, let's get started. Welcome to episode 21, Defining Your Truth. So last week, we talked about how all those negative, shaming messages you received early in life helped you form beliefs that now run your life. So today, I want to turn all that stuff on its head and talk about, finally, how to define your real truth. Like what is actually validly, really true for you and what is true about you. But first, just want to continue to put my thanks out there for the wonderful feedback that I'm getting. And I love, love, love knowing so many of you are doing this great work. So keep going. Even when you get frustrated, keep going. It's okay. Pick it back up. Get back on the horse. Remember, you're changing the world just by working on you. Everyone in your life is benefiting immensely from your work. Okay, so what do I mean by your truth or standing in your truth or owning your truth? What I mean by that is what you think, like all your thoughts, what you think is true, what you think matters, what you think about yourself, what you think about the world, how you problem solve, all that stuff. Next, what you feel, what your feelings are. And again, you've heard me say this, you are the only one who gets to decide whether those feelings are on point, maybe they're a little over the top, maybe they're distorted, maybe they're displaced. You get to figure that out. No one has the right to tell you what you should feel, what you shouldn't feel, and mostly what you're feeling. They don't get to qualify those feelings either. Only you do. What you believe. In other words, what you believe in, what your beliefs are about your life, about the world, about people, your spiritual beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? And what do you want to believe in? Those all belong to you. Like we talked about in early episodes, what do you need? Your needs are your business. Your needs are your business. Other people can choose to honor what you need or not. But no one has a right to tell you what you need. Only you do. Only you get to decide whether that's valid, whether it is true for you. What you experience. Now this can be a big one, like we've talked about several times if you're in a manipulative, toxic, or abusive relationship. People who like to rewrite reality and hand it back to you, it's harder to hold on to this. But I want you to know that only you know what you have experienced, and it was true for you. And to hell what anybody else thinks or feels about that. That's about them. Your experiences have been your experiences, and I want to add whatever you want to attach to them. Like, for example, if you just had a really great morning, and you loved having the sun on your face, and you loved going for that walk or walking your dog, and someone else says, it was too cold this morning. No, it's too early. Those are their perceptions. Just be careful. Hold on to your own. Just trust what is. What you want for your life is another part of your truth, and only you get to decide what you want that to be. You get to explore that, figure that out, validate it, have fun with that. And what you don't want anymore in your life. Toxic people, situations, things that are no longer working for you, friendships that may no longer work for you, behaviors that may no longer work for you and beliefs that no longer work for you. And learning to detach from what other people think and feel and choose around that, because that's their experience. And just like you, they get to be wherever they are. What you choose, who you choose, and where and when you choose. A big part of owning your truth, I think, is really about owning your choices, not putting them on anyone else, not blowing them off. And that means not attributing your choices to other people, places, and things, really owning what you choose and really getting thoughtful about that. I'm sure as you've been listening to these episodes, you can safely assume, I'm going to assume, you own your choices. What about what gives you energy? What do you love? What just because? What blows your skirt up? What are you passionate about? What do you get joy from? Those are your things. Just don't qualify them by other people's perceptions. Those are yours. And no one has a right to tell you what those things should be. You get to figure that out, maybe discover it for the first time, rediscover it, and own it. My encouragement is the more that you pay attention to what you love and what brings you joy and energy, the closer to your core self you will become. What about your strengths and your weaknesses? That's reality. It's not ignoring your strengths and it's not ignoring your weaknesses. It's really embracing both. And I think for a lot of people, they say that, well, those things are my gifts and maybe other things aren't. And that's okay. Because if we were all the same, that'd be pretty boring. You have wonderful strengths that the next person does not. And maybe they're stronger at things that you're not, and that's okay. When we talk about weaknesses too, I want to clarify, the only time you really want to work on our weaknesses is if it's a behavior that can be problematic. Like maybe one of your weaknesses is not eating well. Well, that can harm your health over the long run, so you may want to work on that. But I'm not talking about a weakness that you're not that great at singing, perhaps. I don't know if it would help to focus too much energy on that. Maybe you would take some singing lessons so you feel a little bit better about your singing. Just don't get into comparing out too much. And what are your boundaries, right? And if you haven't already, please go back and listen to all the boundary episodes so you can get up to speed on those. Because you can't own your truth without having boundaries in my book. I just don't think it's possible. So what are your boundaries? Do you know? Do you have your list of your bottom lines we were talking about before that all hell's going to break loose if someone crosses them? Those are defining boundaries. They define who you are and more importantly, where you end and others begin. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what I mean about defining your truth. It's whatever is true for you and true about you, and that you like that. You may not be able to change some of your abilities, but you can change other things about you, like your beliefs and your choices and things like that. And that's what's really cool. Okay, but first I want to go back for a moment and actually contrast a bit and revisit the concept of the shaming negative messages I talked about last week. I mean, mostly lies, right? That many of you have heard and or absorbed consciously or subconsciously. Because I want to think about that for just a moment. And again, if you didn't listen to last week, stop this podcast here and go back, because that's going to matter. Okay, so let's assume you've done that and you've spent the last few minutes listening to me talk about what is really true for you. What's the real great stuff? Like how smart you are and how creative you are and what you love and what you're passionate about and what's special to you. I want you to contrast that and I want you to take a moment right now and just envision 5 or 6 of these negative, shaming lies and just bring them up for a moment. Not real traumatic ones, but maybe some that are on the more benign side. And I want you to imagine these in big, bold letters that are really easy to see from far away, okay? Now, I know this might be a little emotionally difficult, so, don't bring up really scary ones, but bring up some benign ones that just irritate you. Okay, so now that you can picture there's 5 or 6 horrible lies about you, and I want you to imagine that right now as we speak, they're on about 10 visible billboards around town, like ones you can easily see. You can see them in big white billboards with big, bold black lettering saying your name at the top, the word is, and 3 dots. And these are affirmative statements. Can you see them? Now, your phone's going off because you have friends texting you. They're freaking out because they're seeing these things even as they drive up and down the damn interstate. They're everywhere. And more are happening. And then you look outside now in the rear view if you're driving or outside from your house, and now those messages are printed all along the side and the back of your vehicle. And hell, even a few more on the top. Ugh. And then now you look down at your arm and you see them tattooed everywhere. Okay, take a moment. How are you feeling right now? I bet a little bit pissed and a lot freaked out. I hope you're really angry, actually. And if you are, that's good news. Here's why. Because I think until you get good and angry about these awful messages that have been said about you in big, bold black letters and shown to the world as if they're true, because you should really be furious because they are not you, and you know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be furious. You also know that you may have inadvertently over the years believed these billboards, and sadly, some of your life may reflect those statements. And I want to remind you right now that you get to choose. You're a grown-up. You get to choose today. You get to burn those messages. And if you've done some work on this, there's often more to do, and that's okay. Usually, if you've done some big work, there's some nuanced pieces left to do, and that's all right. You also now get to choose and get solid about what is really true about you and what do you want to be true and why. Remember that list I rattled off a little while ago about thoughts and feelings and choices and beliefs? What you're passionate about, what brings you energy, what you love, what matters to you. In other words, everything that you think pertains to you and what is true for you. Even all those wonderful things you may have been hiding behind these negative messages, because that's usually what's going on. There's some wonderful authenticity there, oftentimes, behind defensiveness, behind perceived shyness, behind emotional immaturity, behind all the fear, all that self-protective stuff, all those coping mechanisms. Now, here are a few rules that I think apply to owning your personal truth. Number 1, your truth is not about anyone else. It's not about what they think of you or what they wish your truth was. Because a lot of people want you to be where they are because that helps them feel more comfortable. But remember, again, only you get to decide, yes, choose what you want to be your truth and why. For example, for myself, congruence is a really important thing to me so I can feel genuine. So I like to think I take responsibility for owning what matters to me and to make sure that is real. Like I give that thought. And I also have to take responsibility for every once in a while looking around in my life and say, does that show, right? Do I follow through? Is my walk matching my talk lately or not? Because we're never going to feel good if there's that mismatch. I firmly believe that. But that also means detaching from what others think about you. And maybe one of the hardest things you ever work on is letting go of that. It's hard. You're going to have to practice, and remind yourself. It's the best way to do it. Keep telling yourself, just because they doesn't mean I. That's about them. This is about me. And just remember that old phrase, what they think and say about you says a hell of a lot more about them than you. For example, if they say you're just too bossy, then that's often code for they can't do that for themselves. They can't assert themselves. And you're showing them that when they do it. And plus, it's too honest. It includes boundaries. And doesn't that change the whole game of communication? Doesn't that change the whole game of the relationship? People don't want you to do that. The people that want you to assert yourselves are ones who can do it themselves, and they see the wonderful value in asking for what you need, in being direct and being emotionally honest, and there's no BS, and there's no beating around the bush, and there's no passive-aggressive behavior. Another angle I want to visit right now is we got to look at something real quick, because you can't build a foundation of truth if there's a little bit of dishonesty going on there inside of you. You know, might be a few things that come up actually because you are looking more deeply, and I want you to know that that's a good thing. Here are some typical ones, but I want you to search your own heart and find your own. So one of the most typical ones is feeling like maybe most days you put on a false persona, like a mask, a shield to protect you. You know, like smiling when you're really mad or sad, saying you're fine. Maybe being quiet and distant, you know, not really being in the moment, not being joyous and present and connected. Another big one are those people-pleasing behaviors. You know, the kind like when you change your truth, as soon as someone says something that goes against what you said, you quickly say, oh yeah, you're right, and dismiss what was true for you. Or cave, or give in. I don't care what you call it. It's like I knew my truth 5 minutes ago. What happened? It's because someone brought something in the next moment that did not agree with it. And see, I think that, especially when you're first working on this stuff, you'll probably notice that you secretly wish and want other people just to comply with what you say you need. There's no friction and there's no conflict, and you don't have to stand your ground because you don't want to be rejected and you don't want to be shamed and all of that. That's the other reason why you'll put other people's needs in front of your own, and that might be something that you have to grapple with. You know, when I said a moment ago, what are the little sneaky things that get in the way of standing in our truth? That can be a big one. And we can think that we're just being quote unquote caring and nurturing and all that, but we got to be really careful. You know, the rule of thumb is do that thing for them unless it makes you go against your own truth. Okay? Like if you said this weekend you wanted to set time aside for you, but then a friend calls you and she needs you, and you drop whatever you originally said you wanted to do for yourself, you're going to have a problem. Some of the other things that you may not want to look up are ways that you're not congruent. You know, ways that maybe you don't follow through as consistently as you would like to. Probably because there are other boundary issues that play into that, right? Like putting too much on your plate to where it's not realistically possible for you to get it all done. So not being in reality there, that might need some work. What about the fear you have, and there's a big club that you belong to with this, about really putting the real vulnerable self out there? And I've said this before, what is so hilarious at the end of the day is it's when we put our real, vulnerable, authentic selves out there that people love it, right? Because they can connect with that. It's real. You know, there's not something missing. There's not something off. It's just you. It's your unique you. So just keep reminding yourself of that and just chip away at that little by little. Again, over the episodes, I've talked a lot about there are very good reasons why it's difficult for you to be vulnerable or maybe that vulnerable, and it's not your fault. But if you want to live an authentic life, you know, we all have to work on being more and more genuine. You know, Brene Brown talks about cultivating that we have to do that every day we wake up. We get better and better at it, but we also have to stay conscious of it. no different than if you're having a bad day, you're trying to stay conscious about being nice to people while you feel crappy. So the other piece, and we're going to jump ahead for just a moment because we're going to talk about values down the road in future episodes, but I felt I needed to mention them here because I don't think we can own who we are without talking about what we value. So just take a moment and try to think about or write down, if you can, what matters to you. Is it family? Is it health? Is it environment? What are the causes that you're passionate about? Where's your why? Like, what matters and why? Is it hope? Is it love? Is it honesty? Is it connection? What about your personal experiences? Bought and paid for values. Where have you heard good arguments? Where have you learned really cool things, been exposed to cool things? Where do you see the evidence that backs up what you think matters? What matters is that it matters to you. Then, and again, we'll delve into this down the road, the hard part is, am I living those values out? Like if someone looked at my life today, could they see those values? Would they be visible? Or would there be a little bit of contradiction going on there? And I just want to first say, don't be hard on yourself if there is. Like if you value organization and your house is a mess, all right, all that means is you got to get it together. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Don't bring the shame into it, please. Just bring some ownership into it. I did an episode on, and if you haven't already, go back to episode 4 about bridging the gap, or if you need to listen to it again, because that might be helpful if you really see some big gaps between what your truth is and what's going on in your life. And then make some amends to yourself. Just forgive yourself. Look at what changes you want to make. And I want you to focus on what is on the other side of the gap. What do you want to aspire to? It's not about perfect or horrible. It's like I keep getting to aspire to being like that. And it's great. In terms of not just talking about, getting out of the present moment, but we also need things we want to move towards and gravitate towards. I think it gives us motivation and gives us hope. Maybe writing down a few steps to get there. And recommit if you fell off the horse. Just recommit. You're human. We're going to fall off. It's okay. All that matters is that we get back on. So another way that I think is really, really important about being grounded in your truth is getting back into your body, literally. And I'm sure you've heard this somewhere, probably many times. It's easy to get out of your body because getting sucked into playing a bit part in someone's movie, whether you did that in your childhood or whether you're doing it now, and sometimes maybe we sign up to do it subconsciously because we're scared as hell to be the star of our own movie. What matters is you can get out of your body. And maybe you spent a lifetime being out of your body because it was scary being in the moment as a kid. Maybe you were violated. Maybe you were abused. It just wasn't safe. And getting back in your body can take time, so be nice to yourself, be kind and compassionate. Make time each day, throughout the day. Take 10 minutes, maybe once an hour. Ways that we can get back in our body is we can breathe. Just do some deep breathing for a few minutes. Just pay attention. Like, how does my body feel? Is it tense? Do I have a headache? Am I tired? Am I anxious? Where's that anxiety feel like it is? Is it the pit of my stomach? Is it in my throat? How am I feeling? Am I feeling relaxed or not? And why would that make sense? What's going on for me? Meditation is a wonderful way to start doing that, however you want to do that. I love guided visualization meditations myself. And especially if you struggle to be back in touch with your body and if it brings up anxiety, what's really helpful is there are a lot of guided meditations out there for body scanning and paying attention and relaxing each muscle in your body kind of thing. They're very benign and gentle usually, so I would recommend them. Just go on YouTube and do some of them. Taking a nap is a good way to ground. Take a walk. Play. Do something fun. Play, the definition of play is doesn't have any useful purpose. Let yourself play, even if it's for 5 minutes. Do something creative. Whatever that may be for you, creativity takes a billion different forms. There is no one creative. You have your own creative. Sometimes prayer and journaling for people really helps. Getting your truth on paper can make it valid. Writing down your gratitude list. Writing down things that you are looking for in your life. Maybe writing down some things that hurt. You're validating yourself. You're standing in your truth. Create that vision board. That's a fun thing to do. What you envision, you will be drawn towards. Be intentional about that. And don't hold back. Let yourself dream. You never know. Get working out. Get back on that schedule if you've fallen off. Clean up your space. Get rid of clutter. Get organized. Take care of that crap you've been putting off. Maybe do some planning. You're going to feel so much more grounded the more proactive you are. Spend some time with good people. Oh my gosh, what a shot in the arm. And we don't realize it till we walk away from dinner and we realize that was wonderful. People who are safe and whom you can trust. I'm really strict about that. You know that. You should be getting good mirroring and regrouping and encouragement and love from those folks. If not, don't do it. Time away by yourself is humongous if you can do it. A day trip, 4 hours, whatever, or even better, a night away or a weekend away. Anywhere where you can commune with yourself. Some people do that outside, and that's great, but anywhere you can be with yourself. No have-tos, no shoulds, no one else to take care of, and no distractions. Read, learn, watch, learn. Open your mind, go learn a new skill, grab a new book, watch a video. Whenever I feel stuck, I find it really helpful to do what I call is lean and learn. Lean because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing next, and learn because it'll help me grow and be more mature and open my mind. Maybe there's some ahas in there. Maybe the next step is just expanding my knowledge. I don't know. Good questions to ask ourselves, right? Like, what do I need to see or acknowledge right now? Like, what's next for me? And finally, connect vulnerably. Hug your dog, hug your kid, your partner, your best friend. Feel that belongingness and that love and safety and connection. So with all this stuff I mentioned, what I want to encourage is eventually make this a routine. If you take these pieces and plug them into your month, not perfectly, every month is different and life shows up, right? But you will begin to feel a whole lot more grounded, I promise you. You'll give yourself some time to explore your truth. What we're learning about the subconscious is, again, the reason why you come up with great ideas in the shower when you can't write things down is because you're doing a mundane task. You're taking a shower. You're not having to think about it, perhaps. And so now, these are the times, these down times, where our brains can actually put the data together and come up with some really cool solutions. So that's why it's actually important. It's not being lazy. It's not being unproductive or ineffective. We know that now. Sometimes it just helps to make a list and start plugging just one in at a time. Like if this feels overwhelming, my encouragement is pick one thing. Just pick one of these self-care things that you can start doing and make it a habit. Do it for a few weeks because you're going to see how good it feels. And I promise you, you're going to want more of that. And I love it because every day you wake up, you can start over too. That's what's great. Learn to be flexible as well. Maybe about how you do your self-care, but I don't want you to be flexible about the fact that you need self-care to feel grounded. It's usually the first thing we back burner, but then we really end up regretting it because we cannot live our truth if we don't feel grounded. And we're not going to feel grounded unless we spend some time with ourselves, regrouping, recuperating, resting, and rejuvenating. The other thing that does when we set boundaries around our time and energy to make time for us, we're showing ourselves that we matter. A lot of times I think we stop doing that. I've talked before about we start abandoning ourselves little by little. And then we turn on the people in our life and the circumstances in our life because we're pissed because they're not doing enough for us. And here's the thing. We have to do these things for ourselves. And every time you show yourself that your truth matters, that your health matters, that your body matters, that your thoughts matter and your needs matter, you're going to feel so much better. So today we delved into that impact of owning your truth. And I know I gave it to you straight, and some of it might have been difficult to swallow, but I just want you to keep thinking this week about what messages do you really want to advertise to the world? And what do you want to make so true about you? So that your insides are looking a lot more like your outsides and vice versa. And so you can feel even more confident and grounded as you go. So next week, we're going to take this thought even further and get into taking real, true, and committed responsibility for who we really are. So I'm excited about that. Thanks for listening today. I hope you got some great stuff out of it. So remember, pay it forward. Keep focusing on you. Stand in your truth. And I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.